What is a breakout? Isn't it just a sleeper, an upside pick? Well, yeah, but also more. When we talk breakouts, we're not just talking upside. We want players who could smash expectations and truly make a difference for your season. We want the guys that come January, everyone's saying that's the guy you had to have to win. And those are exactly the players that we're revealing on this show. So, who are our breakouts for 2025? You're about to find out. An all-new Draft Sharks podcast starts right now.
It's the Draft Sharks.
Matt Schaff and Jared Smola of DraftSharks.com here to reveal some fantasy football breakout picks for 2025. We just revealed the breakout pick of the year on DraftSharks.com earlier this week. One of our oldest articles predates me, my time with the company, Jared. I've been with Draft Sharks for about 14 years now. Breakout pick has been hitting the site since before I arrived. Did it predate you as well?
It did. It might have been. I know the first round bust pick started when the site started in 1999. I'm not sure the breakout pick started exactly then, but it was definitely before I started working at Draft Sharks, and that was 2007. So,
and I remember Lenny saying that Steve Young was that first round bust pick, kind of inspired it. Like he was like, "What are you guys doing drafting this quarterback in round one?" I have to check with him on the breakout pick. I don't remember who the first one is. We're not going to reveal that player on this particular show. You have to actually visit DraftSharks.com if you want to find out who the breakout pick is for our site this year. But we are going to reveal the two runners-up that did also appear in that article, and we're going to add a couple of other guys that were in the running, some favorites of ours individually. Real quick before we start, though, it's mid-August now. It's prime draft season. That means it is time to get off the fence and become a DS Insider. You will get premium content like the breakout player article, like the comeback pick, like the early round bust. You will also get access to all the rankings, all the tools that you need to dominate your draft and stay ahead of your league mates all season long. The Free Agent Finder is a key tool that we talk about throughout the season that I know gives me an advantage every week, really helps me manage all of my teams. It all starts with the Draft War Room, though. That's what we're focused on this time of year. And that live syncs with your draft. You'll find, like I said, much more beyond that. So check out DraftSharks.com. Get all the details. For now, we're going to go ahead and get into our four breakout candidates. And that starts, Jared, with a rookie wide receiver in Carolina that I know you're a fan of.
Yeah, Tetairoa McMillan for the Panthers is one of our honorable mention breakout picks. And for me, this starts with just philosophically wanting to target rookie wide receivers, especially when they're priced in the range that McMillan is. So if you look at over just the last 5 seasons now, 7 rookie wide receivers have finished top 20 in PPR points per game. So that's 1.4 rookie wide receivers per season that finished top 20. 4 of those over the last 5 years have finished top 10 in PPR points per game. So we've had breakouts come from this cohort of rookie wide receivers. And again, I think they often come at big ADP wins when they're priced like McMillan is. McMillan right now is wide receiver 26 in our consensus ADP. We have him wide receiver 22 in our PPR rankings. He's a 13 spot value if you look at our ADP market index, meaning he's basically 13 spots too low in ADP. So he's coming at a big value. He's a prospect we really liked coming in to the NFL draft. He was a big time recruit coming into college. He was the number 4 wide receiver prospect in his recruiting class. Big true freshman season in college, 702 receiving yards in 2022. Broke out as a sophomore, nearly 1,400 yards that year. Was even better this past season, his final college season, 110 receiving yards per game last year for McMillan. He's a big body, 6'4", 219 pounds. We've heard a lot of positive buzz on McMillan in training camp. I thought he looked awesome in the preseason opener. Made that deep catch down the right sideline, kind of a contested ball, made another catch from the left side, more of an in-breaker, catch and run stuff. Actually dropped the ball in the end zone. That was just an incredible anticipatory throw from Bryce Young. Like as soon as Tet turned around, the ball was right there and he just couldn't quite catch it. But I like to see that trust in Bryce Young to, throw McMillan that ball in the end zone. And then lastly, look at the target competition in Carolina. It's just not scary at all. Like Adam Thielen was their best wide receiver last year. He's approaching 40 years old now. We don't love Xavier Legette. Jalen Coker, we'll see. But McMillan, if he's the real deal, and we think he is, he should immediately be the clear number 1 target on this offense.
We only need to look back last year at Malik Neighbors, at Ladd McConkey, at Brian Thomas Jr. to show us what a rookie wide receiver with opportunity can do. And like I wrote in the article, there's really three major components to the case for McMillan. One is the talent, which you just covered. He topped 1,300 yards each of the past 2 years, 16.1 career yards per catch in college, plenty of touchdowns. There's intriguing opportunity in Carolina. You mentioned Adam Thielen, the leader in receptions per game last year. Number 2 on that list was Deontay Johnson. So clearly Carolina needs to upgrade there. The actual target leader was Xavier Legette with 84, the total reception leader with 49. So I think they need to upgrade on that. The fact that they drafted McMillan 8th overall certainly indicates that they believe he's an upgrade over whatever they've had there before. And then the other component there is Bryce Young rebounding over the second half of last season. Over his final 10 weeks, ranked 6th in PFF passing grade. So it's not just about the targets available, but a quarterback that looks like he's really on the right path now after a bad start to his career. And then finally, that price, which you mentioned with McMillan already as well. Wide receiver 26 in consensus PPR ADP, going at the round 5-6 turn. I don't think that's too expensive to make McMillan be a part of your plans. And as we just talked about, the upside goes well beyond that. Just look at what the rookie wideouts did last year. So I certainly like McMillan being part of a draft plan. Love the upside. I know that even back when Kevin was writing him up as a prospect, he saw some comparisons to Mike Evans, Drake London in Ted McMillan's play. So that's the type of athlete. Not saying he's going to be Mike Evans or Drake London right away, but that's the type of athlete we're talking about in the opportunity that we just covered. Number 2 on our breakouts list here is Ricky Pearsall, and he's actually been in our breakouts article ever since it first came out for this year. Of course, a first-round pick by the 49ers last year. Situation got better for him this year with Deebo Samuel leaving town. Brandon Ayuk is coming off the double ligament tear. That's almost certainly going to land him on the PUP to start this season. And now even Jauan Jennings is dealing with a recurrent calf issue. It's like, when he first went down with this calf issue, we kind of assumed, at least I know I assumed, and it didn't really seem like Kyle Shanahan was dispelling it right away. Kind of assumed it was contract related because Jauan Jennings is looking for a new deal. Shanahan has since said it's not that, and it's a legit calf issue, and it is one that he dealt with last summer as well. So that's worrisome for Jauan Jennings. Of course, the case for Pearsall is not just about the available opportunity, because that's not really a reason to pursue a specific player. Pearsall himself, like I said, first-round pick by the Niners last year. We kind of wondered about him as a prospect, especially because he didn't break out until his age 21 season in college. I'm getting myself over that just on the fact that Kyle Shanahan likes him enough to not only draft him at that point, but this is what Kyle Shanahan said about Ricky Pearsall after that draft. Quote, "He just plays the position real well, whether he was outside, inside, all 3 positions. He can separate down the field. He can separate underneath, extremely good hands. There's nothing he can't do." If that's what Kyle Shanahan thinks about you after drafting you in round 1, and now you've got this opportunity, I'm going to go ahead and bet on you and in wide receiver 4 range in 80.
Pearsall, among the 4 guys we're going to talk about today, he's the player I have the most questions about still. But I think he's in the highest upside situation among all these guys, and he's the cheapest among all these 4 guys we're going to talk about. Ricky Pearsall's ADP right now, 901 as the wide receiver 44. We have him as a 10-spot value in market index. Like you said, Matt, there are some issues with his prospect profile. He was a 5-year college player. He came into the NFL. He turned 24 early in his rookie season. He's going to turn 25 this September. Just kind of middling college production. But on the plus side, I think that the film grinders liked him. You watch Ricky Pearsall. He's a good route runner. He adds value after the catch. He has good hands. He tested really well, 9.91 relative athletic score. Got the round 1 draft capital. He also, and I think this is interesting, being on the 49ers, he ran 21 times for 253 yards and 5 touchdowns across his 5 college seasons. I wonder if he can do some of the Deebo Samuel stuff. I don't think he's going to be as productive a runner, either in terms of volume or just production, as Deebo was with the 49ers. But I think some of that work could go to Pearsall. So that's just on top of the fact that, for all the reasons you mentioned, Matt, he just has this awesome opportunity now with all the issues in San Francisco's pass-catching core. And this is a passing game we want a piece of. The 49ers have been top 13 in pass yards in 6 straight seasons. And the last 2 seasons with Brock Purdy, they finished 4th in the NFL in passing yards. So, despite the fact that it's not a high-volume passing game, it's super efficient. There's going to be production to go around here. And at this point, we're 3 weeks away from the start of the season. Pearsall is looking like a good bet to open the season as the 49ers' number 1 wide receiver.
And by the way, Pearsall gave us a sneak peek of his upside with wide receiver 7, wide receiver 14 PPR finishes the final 2 weeks of last year. So we don't have to totally guess. We're just projecting what the role is going to be. And like you said, in this efficient offense that you just want to bet on in general. The next guy on our list, another wideout, and it's your entry into this consideration, Jared. So I'm going to let you cover George Pickens.
Yeah, Pickens is someone I even pushed to get into the article as an honorable mention pick. Maybe after this, I'll have convinced you enough to actually add him. We'll see.
Yeah,
But, I'll start with the player here. Pickens as a talent, I think he's really good. Pickens has averaged over 2 yards per route in each of the last 2 seasons. That's a very high mark to clear in 2 straight seasons now. This is a note from the great JJ Zachariason at Late Round Quarterback. Since 2011, there have been 29 wide receivers with multiple seasons of 2+ yards per route during their first 3 years in the NFL. 24 of those 29 receivers went on to score at least 16 PPR points per game in at least one of their seasons. The 5 who haven't, Jaylen Waddle, who we love this year, Chris Olave, who I definitely love, I think we all love this year, Jaden Reed and Christian Watson, 2 Packers. That's like a discussion for another podcast. The fact that there's 2 Packers on this list. And then George Pickens is the 5th guy. So the point there is, receivers who are that productive on a per route basis, especially early in their career, tend to go on to have at least, one fairly big fantasy season. Pickens obviously hasn't delivered in fantasy yet. He's finished wide receiver 36 and wide receiver 41 in PPR points per game the last 2 years. But that's come on Steelers offenses that have ranked 29th and 29th in pass attempts, 25th and 27th in pass yards, and 30th and 20th in passing touchdowns. Has not been a good spot for receiver production. Now Pickens heads to Dallas. Their last 2 seasons under former OC Brian Schottenheimer, now head coach, Cowboys have finished 8th and 3rd in pass attempts, 3rd and 11th in passing yards, and 1st and 13th in passing touchdowns. So if you just want to compare the Cowboys versus the Steelers last year, the Cowboys had 22% more pass attempts, 18% more passing yards, and that was despite Dak Prescott missing half of the year. So I think you can't overstate how much better a situation Pickens is going to from Pittsburgh to Dallas. He's going to be the clear number 2 target behind CeeDee Lamb. I think Pickens is an especially good fit with Dak Prescott. We know Pickens does a lot of his work downfield. Prescott's been one of the best deep passing quarterbacks in the NFL. You look at the last 4 years, he's been 7th in PFF deep passing grade in 3 of those last 4 years. And the last thing with Pickens I'll say too is I'm not a vibes-based fantasy drafter. I really lean heavily on the projections and the stats and the metrics, but I think vibes matter with George Pickens. Just we kind of know his personality, know the issues he had in Pittsburgh. The vibes in Dallas have been awesome, both from his teammates, the coaching staff, the media. Brian Schottenheimer, just earlier this week, here's a quote he had on George Pickens. This is from Coach Speak Index, another excellent follow. He told me he wants to be coached and he wants to be a great player. He's been nothing but incredible in terms of the way he's worked and communicated with us. We weren't getting that from George Pickens in Pittsburgh. It seems like this new environment kind of has flipped a switch for him. So I'm kind of all in on Pickens having the most productive season of his career in 2025.
I love the talent on Pickens. I love the situation upgrade. I'm certainly in on the Dallas offense this year. His biggest issue has obviously always been motivation, and he should be motivated this year. He's in the final year of his contract. He just got traded from the team that drafted him. And now he's in this situation that should allow for him to explode if he's ready to. So I'm not worried about the motivation heading into this year. Really, the only reason that Pickens doesn't qualify for the breakout article for me is where he's going in drafts. If we look at consensus ADP, he's wide receiver 29, which is fine. I could see some breakout potential from there. But if we look at the best ball sites, he's wide receiver 22 on Underdog. He's wide receiver 21 on Drafters. I think probably he's going to be a little bit closer to that, if not right at those numbers, as we're looking at, lineup setting leagues, home league type of drafts. Certainly the bigger money lineup setting late August drafting. I think that's the range that we should expect him to go. And from there, he really has to be inside the top 15 by the end of the year to count as a breakout, I think. So, we're splitting hairs here. I think we both like the value on Pickens. We both love the Dallas offense heading into this season. I'm drafting him. Just didn't quite make the cutoff for breakout for me.
Yeah, the price thing is interesting. I don't know. He's definitely like a hot name in like our fantasy bubble. But I also think when you get into your home league drafts, people just don't like George Pickens because of the attitude stuff, because of the fact that he's kind of underwhelming to Pittsburgh. If you can get him in wide receiver 3 range, like outside the top 25 receivers in ADP, I think he's a great pick there.
Absolutely. I would love to have George Pickens as my third receiver in any format. The last guy on this list is somebody who's stuck in Pittsburgh still, but just for one more year. And it's Jaylen Warren, because we can't go all wide receivers on this show. Now, Jaylen Warren's coming off a 2024 that found his workload and his performance limited by injuries, especially early in the year. He did rebound some over the second half, not necessarily in work, but at least in performance. 10th in yards after contact per attempt from week 7 on, according to PFF. Tied for 15th in missed tackles forced over that span, 8th in elusive rating. If we look back to 2023, we got more of that type of performance from Jaylen Warren at a healthier level and getting more work. That was the year that he overtook Najee Harris as a producer, even though he didn't overtake Najee Harris on the total touch front. Warren averaged 1.3 more yards per carry than Najee Harris that season. He ranked 8th among all running backs in yards after contact per carry. He tied for 5th in total missed tackles forced, despite ranking just 36th in total carries, 3rd best in yards over expected per carry, according to NFL Next Gen Stats, 21st among running backs in total PPR points, despite getting fewer touches than Najee Harris that year, did overtake Najee Harris as a receiver. This year, Jaylen Warren's just RB32 in consensus ADP. And if we look at the best ball sites, he's RB31 on Underdog. He's RB30 on Drafters. So I believe that that's the range he's going to continue going in. We know that people are hesitant in unclear backfields, but I think the final point on Jaylen Warren is there's lots of upside to the lack of clarity in this Pittsburgh backfield. And I'm going to get a little bit more into that in a minute. But first, I want to get your take on Jaylen Warren this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's been an efficient runner. If you look at 60 running backs have 200 plus carries over the last 3 seasons, Warren ranks 10th among those 60 in yards per carry. He ranks 1st among those 60 in broken tackles per attempt. So a good runner. He's also 13th among all running backs in catches over the last 3 years. So efficient runner, good pass catcher. You talk about that 2023 season. I think that's basically his floor this year. In 2023, he averaged 8.8 carries per game, 4.4 targets per game. I don't see him dipping much below those marks. I mean, maybe he doesn't get to the target mark, but I think 8.8 carries, he's going to get there. He finished RB29 in PPR points per game in 2023. That's already higher than he's being picked right now. I think he's almost priced at his floor. Then the upside, I think what you're going to get to, Matt, what if Caleb Johnson doesn't fire? This is a 3rd round rookie. To me, the vibes from the coaching staff on Caleb Johnson have not been great. There's been a lot of talk about him just needing polish, right? Both as a runner and in the passing game. I didn't think he looked that great in the preseason opener. Thought he looked kind of sluggish. So I just think there's room for Warren to carve out the biggest role of his career this season.
And in that preseason opener, Pittsburgh did not play its first stringers. That included Jaylen Warren not playing in that game. It did start Kenneth Gainwell ahead of Caleb Johnson. He played 4 snaps and then left the game to give way to Caleb Johnson for that performance that you said was not impressive. Then ESPN's Brooke Pryor, so she's the ESPN Steelers beat writer. Here's what she had to say about these 2 running backs. Quote, "It kind of feels like we're watching Najee Harris right now, and Caleb Johnson was drafted to be better than Najee. Not every running back can be as durable as he was, but you want to be durable and explosive, and I haven't seen that yet from Caleb Johnson." Another quote, "It was very different from a couple years ago when Jaylen was a new guy and he was a UDFA, undrafted free agent, and really popped at camp. And it felt like, wow, we really found something, a diamond in the rough here." And that's what I remember from Jaylen Warren's camp. I didn't know who Jaylen Warren was going into that first camp. He was that undrafted free agent, and there was just buzz all around him like, who is this guy that explodes every time he gets the ball? I'm getting none of that with Caleb Johnson. And, you have to be a little bit patient with the rookie running back, but that's the key here. If Jaylen Warren were just like RB, 22 from an RB 30 draft position, we'd be talking about him as a sleeper. The breakout potential comes here in the possibility that Caleb Johnson's just not ready to be a big factor this year, that he takes less work than anybody's expecting, and that Pittsburgh probably hoped he would take in drafting him in round 3. That is a possibility, even if he's healthy all year. Obviously, there's also the, case of him getting injured and giving more touches to Jaylen Warren. So the upside case is, I don't know how high it goes. We haven't seen Jaylen Warren get that level of work. If he's simply ready to lead this year's backfield in carries and catches, he could certainly be a top 15 running back. I don't know how high it would go in that RB1 range. It doesn't hurt him that Aaron Rodgers is around. Probably a more efficient runner of the offense than they've had for at least most of his time. We can quibble about current Aaron Rodgers versus last year's Russell Wilson, but obviously Pittsburgh considers that to be an upgrade. That should help the opportunities for Jaylen Warren, could help the offense overall. So just overall, I'm betting on Jaylen Warren, especially from his very low price tag. And I want to have him on board and see how high that ceiling can go this year, because I think that the floor is good enough that I don't think he's going to let me down as long as he stays healthy.
One last point I'd make on Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers is not going to put up with a rookie running back making mistakes, especially in pass protection. Caleb Johnson, like if there's a biggest weakness to his game, he's unpolished in the passing game in general. But I think, pass protection, and we've heard this in training camp, is somewhere where he needs a lot of work. Aaron Rodgers ain't going to put up with that. So I think that fact alone is you're going to get Jaylen Warren on the field in obvious passing situations, and we'll kind of see where it goes beyond that.
Yeah, I'm drafting Jaylen Warren. I'm going to keep doing it. I hope people keep him in that RB30 range across ADPs, because I think we're going to be profiting if it stays that way. We like the breakout potential on all four of these guys we talked about, but you can still find the official Draft Sharks breakout pick on draftsharks.com right now. And beyond that, of course, you can find rankings for your format, and you can sync your league or leagues if you play in a bunch of them right now to get rankings specific to you, to get your draft war room ready, to run mock drafts in your exact league format, and to just get set to win some freaking fantasy football championships this season. You are the driver of that. We want to ride along and be your unfair advantage.